Jill has been a remarkably pleasant client, and she is one of the few clients that when we are able to bring these cases to a successful conclusion, Jill says nothing more than thank you. And that's truthfully all she needs to say, because it is so heartfelt and it is so genuine. Every lawyer should have a client like Jill. Jill and I were actually classmates. We graduated together in 1984 here at the law school, but the primary way that I know Jill is I've been her lawyer. For all the work that Jill does as a guardian ad litem in children's court, Mike Hart and I together have represented any number of those children in federal civil rights cases at Jill's urging, begging, behest, pleading, and threatening.
Jill came to us, I can't tell you exactly what day or how or anything, but I remember that Jill was clearly from the start a presence, okay? She's a very bright, very articulate and forceful kind of person, not in a negative way, but she always wanted to know. She always wanted to know what was going on. She wanted to hone her skills and learn her skills in our profession, which, unlike print reporters, requires a lot of technical skill too. And in those days, we were still, the reporters were still shooting a lot of their own film. Talk about old times, film. Sorry, Jill, that was a long time ago though. Film. And so you had to have those kinds of skills as well. But of course, the biggest skill that you needed to have was to be a journalist.
I met Jill a little bit over 40 years ago. We were kids. We were children at the legislature. I was a lobbyist and she was a reporter for KOAT. She was the Capitol correspondent. She's always been imposing with a wonderful voice and again, just a credible, wonderful reporter. You could always count on her stories.
I remember her best as our reporter in Santa Fe, covering the legislature, covering government, covering those kind of things, which in the 1970s seems to me to have been more important than it is now.
Democrats for Skeen will open a headquarters in Albuquerque sometime next week. And Bruce King says he'll begin releasing names of prominent Republicans who will help him in his bid for a roundhouse seat. Jill Marron, Action 7 News at the state capitol.
January 1980, Jill becomes the Governor King's press secretary, the first female press secretary. 3 days after she takes the position, she goes cross-country skiing with Amanda Ashford, walks into a general store after her lessons, and the person behind the counter says, "Are you Jill Marron?" And of course she says, "Yes." He said, "The governor wants you to give him a call." That was February 2nd, 1980, the New Mexico prison riots. 20 plus people killed, 200 people hospitalized. It was terrible, made national news. She had to rush back to Santa Fe, became the governor's contact, the negotiator, and the spokesperson for the governor's office during that prison riot.
A lot of those skills that she developed working for us, I mean, definitely apply to the legal profession. I know sometimes we clash with the legal profession, but you have to investigate, you have to ask questions, you have to have critical thinking and be able to make sense out of sometimes complicated situations. And she had those skills. So it was no surprise to me when she decided that she wanted to enter the legal profession to become an attorney.
Jill graduated from law school, and Jill had the ability, Jill had the political connections. Jill could have gone into any kind of work. Jill chose to go to work in the children's court system. We graduated in 1984. Jill started doing this work around 1986, and she's been doing it ever since. And that kind of dedication, that kind of devotion is just remarkable.
I think what makes me proud of Jill especially is that she has taken all those kind of skills that she had, and I like to think that she honed in journalism, and used them for a good cause. And what better cause than to advocate for children and in the court system. Kids are caught in the court system all the time. Sometimes it's a terrible trap. She advocates and fights for them. And Lord knows when you see some of the stuff that goes on with kids now and that happens to kids now, and I shouldn't say that happens, that people do to children now, you know, they need advocates.
Children's court can be overwhelming. The sheer volume of children, of clients who are going through that process. And it's very easy as a guardian ad litem to simply go from case to case to case, not really think about what you're doing, just merely move the file, move the children from hearing to hearing. That's not what Jill does. For every child that is assigned to Jill to serve as the guardian ad litem, those children come under her care. They come under her guidance. Jill just doesn't ask questions, are you getting therapy? Are you getting fed? Are you getting cared for? She goes that extra step. She goes to the home. She goes to therapist appointment. She calls teachers. She does all of those things on behalf of not one or two, but at this point in her career, truly countless number of children that have come under her care. And care is the word that I would use. Not just her representation, but her care.
Jill has represented thousands of children in abuse and neglect cases. She's trained dozens of attorneys and law students as well. She's mentored people. And she has done this for 33 years. She would be the longest, most experienced guardian ad litem for abuse and neglect in the state of New Mexico. She also did this work before it was paid. When she started in 1985, it was volunteer. They didn't get paid. They sat around a table and said, who can make Tuesday's hearing? And they took the file. She does this, and it was either with no pay or very little pay to do this work with a person who has wonderful political connections. She's smart, talented, and she chose to do something that is needed and incredibly important.
Jill is tenacious. There have been any number of cases that Jill has come to see us. When we have first reviewed the file, our first comment is, this is awful, but there's nothing we can do. And 2 years later, Jill is still coming to us. Well, look at this. I just learned something new. What about now? Will you now look at this case? And it's not that she wears us down, it's that she's right. And eventually we have taken those cases. We have taken those cases on behalf of those children, and those children have been vindicated. Not because of the quality of our legal work, but because Jill was tenacious enough to make us do the work that we were capable of doing.
Jill was born in Hollywood. Her father was the Los Angeles County veterinarian. She went to Cal Poly, and then she changed to UCLA, and she finished at UC at Chino. And there she was a disc jockey. Jill was known as Jivin' Jill. She had the 11 to 1 a.m. show. She actually applied for the job of general manager there, and the manager didn't hire her for the position because he said, don't get me wrong, some of my best friends are women.
It's kind of funny because her husband, John Cooney, was my best friend in grade school here. But then I moved back to New York when I was in the 5th or 6th grade, and I lost contact with John. And in fact, I really didn't know John until after he and Jill met. Jill is somebody who I have a lot of respect for and have always admired. And I am proud that she used her skills and went on to really help people, the most vulnerable people. Yeah.
It angers her, but she knows that what she's doing, she's got to be sure and tell those stories and get it right so that she protects those kids. When kids come into custody, it's bad. People don't realize that when a case comes up and they read in the paper, it's because a lot of bad things have happened, not just one thing. So when kids come into custody, it's always a good thing. The kids are safer, and either they go back home because the parents are trained and get resources they could never get on their own. Nobody could afford them. Or they get adopted by somebody who will care for them.
Jill is a visionary. Jill looks at children who the system has shoved away. They have forced into children's care. They have forced into the process that we call children's court. She sees something more. She sees potential. She sees a future. She sees children who are able to go through that process and emerge as better humans.
The thing in our business is, you know, you really can't fake it. I mean, a couple of times you could mess up or something, but you know, if you don't get it right, and if you don't have integrity, it doesn't work. People see that. Eventually it comes through. I trusted her knowledge of the process and her determination to dig to get at what was at the bottom of it, what the truth was. So absolutely, that carries totally over into the legal profession.
It's amazing that Jill has chosen a path that no one hears about. Because of the secrecy of these cases, nobody knows the work she does. They're terrible cases. She came from being the face of the governor, Bruce King, whose name rings out in the state of New Mexico, meeting famous people and being at the top of her career. She could have done anything, but she's protecting kids, and she does this selflessly.
When I first learned that Jill was being considered for this award, I was thrilled. Jill is the exact person that this award should be designed to honor. She's not the high-flying person. She's not the person that's already won the accolades or who's already in office or whose name you see in the headlines every day. Jill has chosen a very specific career path and has done it extraordinarily well. And that's exactly the kind of person who deserves to be recognized for a truly distinguished achievement, because that's exactly what she has done.
So let me end this by saying congratulations, Jill. I'm really proud of you. I'm proud of what you've done, especially for kids. And I'm proud that I know you and that I had some small role in helping you to grow when you and I were both younger.
Jill's awesome. Jill, couldn't be happy you're getting this. These kids need you to help tell the story. Thank you.
Jill's been doing this work for 30 years. Most people can't do this work well for even a fraction of that. Jill has done it, she continues to do it, and I think all of us should hope she continues doing this as long as she is able.